Hey everybody, welcome to the Real Hawk Talk post-game show. This is Brian Nemhauser at Hawk Blogger on Twitter, and man, painful game for the Seattle Seahawks. Dropped to 5-1, had this game 10 different ways, found all sorts of ways to lose, and the nerds will tell you it was a regression to the mean in one-score games. I will tell you it was a team that blew a big lead and made some boneheaded plays that had nothing to do with a close game. It shouldn't have been a close game. So we got a good show. We're going to have Stacy Rost join us hopefully here in a little bit. First time we've had her on. But before she does, let me bring in the fellas. Evan Hill at Evan in SEA, Nathan Ernst at Nathan E11, and Jeff Simmons at Real Jeff Simmons. Hey guys, this sucks. I like it much better when we're winning.
That was depressing as fuck. Like, I was just telling Brian this before we even hopped on. That was emotionally traumatic in normal Seahawks fashion. I completely agree with you, Brian. This game should have been a big win, in my opinion. They should have won by 10 plus points. But in a way, also, this loss feels justified. They made so many mistakes. They shot themselves in the foot so many times, whether it's the Dave Moore block, the Benson Mayowa fuck up, taking the ball out of Russell Wilson's hands on that final drive with 1 minute left to go in the fourth quarter. Cardinals had used all their timeouts. There were just some really catastrophic mistakes, and I don't feel like there's a single factor you can point to that says they lost the game because of this. Joe Fan made a great point. This offense shat the bed in the second half. Russell Wilson did not play like an MVP candidate tonight. I think we should be fun about that. This defense struggled mightily. Any defense that, gives up 34 points or 37 points did not do their job. This was all around disappointing, and it's a big loss because it's a divisional game. Of course, they still have the divisional lead, but they have a tough stretch coming up, and they've got to win some of these games if they're, if they want to keep up their hopes and expectations for the number one seed. So I'll quit talking now, but man, it's just upsetting.
Jeff, how about you? How you doing?
Yeah, that was one of the least favorite Seahawks fourth quarters and endings I can remember. It was just emotionally exhausting. I'm almost happy it's over. They just blew that game so many ways. The Benson Mayo penalty, I can't emphasize that play enough. There was no reason to try to block that field goal. Just stand still. A field goal is a massive win in that scenario. They get the ball, limited time. They still need to score 7, and they would have had to use all their timeouts. Just that play. Then they finally get them. They miss a field goal, and then DK scores, and that gets taken away. So just an emotionally exhausting game. As Evan said, they should have won that game pretty comfortably, and they just pissed it away. And ultimately, as Evan said, they deserve to lose. They had that coming.
So on that cheery note, let me welcome in a special guest, Stacy Rost. She's on 710 ESPN on, for what my money is, maybe my favorite sports radio show right now, Tom, Jake, and Stacy. And really, really happy to have you join the show, Stacy. Wish it was under a more celebratory situation, but how are you doing?
I'm good. It's cool. You look like you're floating, which I'm kind of into right now.
I can imagine some substances that would be preferable right now to how I am feeling. So
yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Yeah. I think a lot of Seahawks fans are with you. Yeah, it's weird. I mean, I don't know. I missed the first part of your guys' conversation, but I was definitely not in load and thinking that like this might actually be a tie. Like it might actually happen. And I can't tell if a loss for fans feels worse. Obviously losing isn't fun, but like, I don't know. I mean, it was Russell Wilson's worst game as far as picks go. And the picks weren't on anyone else. They were on him. But at the same time, you had 388 yards, 3 touchdowns, 200 yards from Tyler Lockett. I mean, that was a game. Maybe I'm wrong, but you could have, should have won. So.
Oh, I mean, you're sitting there up 34. What was it? 21? What was it? It was 34-24. Sorry, 34-24. And it just forced them to kick a 52-yard field goal. The only thing you had to do in that situation is nothing.
Right.
Like, just nothing. And that would have been a better play than what Benson Mayowa did, which was not only get offsides, but get a 15-yard penalty that managed to turn what was a 4th and long into a first down.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, but this defense, they're not good enough to withstand those kind of mistakes. When Bobby Wagner got flagged for that penalty on 3rd down, we can say whether we feel like that was a good call or not in the first half. That was 3rd down. It was an incompletion. That would have been a punt from deep in Arizona territory. That turns into a touchdown. Like, this defense just isn't built to handle adversity like that. And, but Nathan, I want to bring you into, I think one of the things we have to talk about is you had the game even after the touchdown. You were up, up by 3, right? You had the ball. And you took the ball out of Russell Wilson's hands at the end of the 4th quarter. And on a 3rd and 2, I mean, you ran it 3 straight times. And on a 3rd and 2, you run it to Carlos Hyde. What were your thoughts?
I honestly don't know how bad of a decision that was. Like, at that point, they were out of timeouts, right? And so you're just running 40 seconds off the clock. And, I mean, if you really want to like look at the time management aspect of it and stuff, they left 4 seconds on the clock when they punted, right? And Arizona kicked this is Ben Baldwin pointing this out on Twitter, right? And then they kick a field goal with 2 seconds left. So, I don't think running off time there was like that. I don't know. With everything that went wrong in this game, I just don't think taking 40 seconds off the clock in that situation is that big of a deal. Like, I'm sure that if you look at it in terms of like win probability or whatever, like obviously getting the first down there, like that seals the game and everything. And so putting it in Russ's hands makes sense. But that is the classic situation where running makes sense and where running is good, and you want to take the time off the clock and just do everything you can to steal that game at that point. So it's just not that big of a deal to me.
Yeah, Stacy, I'm curious. I mean, Evan, what's going on over there, by the way? Are you like...
Is it like, are we on like a fucking boat right now? Is that what it's like?
Are you driving?
No comment, potentially.
Turn off your video, dude.
It feels very unsafe.
Your still picture was better. There we go. Yeah, so Stacy, I mean, what do you I mean, what are you going to be talking about tomorrow about this game?
Okay, that's a good question because it's what I'm probably going to try to be writing about tonight. I think I'm going to be writing about how I don't think it's a mistake to put this loss on certain things on the defense. When we talk about penalties on Benson Mayowa or Bobby Wagner, or even like a false start on Shell in overtime or sacks or anything. At the end of the day, when I'm looking at a list of the longest plays of the game, it only goes to 10, by the way, in the game book. So I haven't gone through and counted, but you've got 10 explosive plays of 16 yards or more from the Arizona Cardinals. None of those, I mean, maybe 1 or 2, but none of those happened on otherwise notable plays where it was, a penalty or some kind of mistake. I mean, you were playing soft at times. Trey Flowers got burnt a couple of times. There were some missed tackles. I mean, there were so many mistakes that have almost been normalize is not the word I want to use because you normally use for much more important context in conversations, but these are the little things that we just kind of say like, oh, there goes another one, but it adds up. And over the course of a game, you look back and you're like, a penalty shouldn't matter that much when your offense scores 34 points. That shouldn't be what kills you in this game.
Yeah. And the other thing, guys, that stands out to me, I mean, that not surprisingly, you go 5 quarters. Not only do you have no sacks, you have no QB hits. I would venture to say there's probably less than 5 QB pressures on the night for the Seahawks. And I think it was pretty clear that they were not rushing hard after Kyler Murray. I think they were trying to keep him from scrambling. But even with that, I mean, he just was sitting back there all day, knowing that he was not going to get any pressure. And if he did, he was going to be able to evade it. So I don't know. It's just,
Brian,
it's hard for me. It's hard for me to put this on the defense. I guess, I mean, the defense was what I thought they were going to be. And you're playing without your best player in Jamal Adams. If you really were expecting them to be the ones that win this game.
But do you really think you can make it to a Super Bowl with that defense? Like if
No.
you're saying the defense is what they are, then why are your expectations to get to a Super Bowl?
Because they still should have won this game. I mean, no, seriously. If Russell
I
Wilson
don't know
had
about
made
that, Brian.
they win this game. If he had made 2 less mistakes, they would have won this game comfortably. If he had made 3 less mistakes, it would have been a blowout. So like 2 of those interceptions came in the end zone. And the third one was to nobody with a chance to win the game. Like with the defense being the defense, they should be 5-0. They absolutely should be 5-0. And I think there's been a ton of games where you say they shouldn't have won. This was a game they absolutely should have won. Sorry, Stacy. I should be nicer. I'm not trying. That's not at you. I'm just frustrated.
They've
Oh
been
no, I
playing
was
with
waiting for
fire.
Evan.
Go ahead, Evan.
Brian, I wanted to ask you, actually, call out a specific player. How do you feel Bobby played tonight?
Not well. No, I mean,
I felt like he had several missed tackles. We did not get the performance out of Bobby Wagner that we needed tonight.
no, there's a lot of missed tackles tonight, and who knows for sure? It probably isn't the difference in the game, but things certainly got worse when Trey Flowers came in.
Yeah.
Which is always. I mean, has it ever not gotten precipitously worse when he comes in the game?
Man, I'm just fucking disappointed. He should have won this.
Well,
He should have won this fucking game.
Yeah, we absolutely should. You had said before, like when it looked like they were going to lose the first time or the 10th time that they were going to maybe lose, you were like disappointed, but this was expected. Say more about what you were thinking about at that point.
Brian, I thought this team shot themselves in the foot. Like, are they capable of being better? Absolutely. But they were not justified in winning tonight's game. They made too many mistakes on both sides of the ball. Russell Wilson did not play like an MVP candidate. The defense was atrocious. The offense only scored 7 points in the second half. There were just too many mistakes made, man. They didn't even have a foot left by the end of this game. They shot themselves in the foot so many times that you cannot make that many mistakes and win a divisional game in Arizona like that. You just cannot. And honestly, I think Russell deserves more heat than he's maybe potentially getting. I haven't checked Twitter, but he did not have a strong game tonight. And for this team to consistently win games and play up to the expectations that we have for them, he has to play like an MVP candidate because he's dragging a dead body on defense, in my opinion. And
Is that on him though? Like without him in this game, and some of those like moon balls over Patrick Peterson, they have no chance. I don't think that's really fair, is it?
But Jeff, he made amazing plays, but he also made some critical mistakes. He had
For
3
sure.
interceptions.
To say the game is purely on him seems a little short-sighted.
But I don't think it's purely on him, but he definitely did not have a good game, and I think he deserves to take some heat for it.
Yeah, that's fair. I would put my blame so many other places.
I think you can spread it around, but anytime your quarterback throws 3 interceptions, like I don't have stats in front of me, but I'm going to guess that more often than not, you're going to lose that game. Whether or not that quarterback 9 times out of 10 is playing like an MVP, whether or not he had 500 yards that game or 100 yards in that game. If he throws 3 picks, I mean, that's going to come back and bite you most of the time. So I get what Evan's saying. I think I would put defense first only because it's been an ongoing conversation. You scored, I don't actually care that you only scored 7 points in the second half because you scored enough in the first half to be able to get yourself to a safe lead, and you didn't. And you, for the most part, I mean, took advantage of a defense, with the exception of those turnovers, that was holding opposing offenses to 18 points per game. It was a really strong performance outside of those 3 picks. But again, like, you're getting off the field, you're giving them a shot. And I just think that, like, this is going to be one of those games. It happens in the NFL. You throw 3 picks, you lose a game. It's fine. I go back to Brian, the debate you and Evan were having. I know it was kind of heated, but that was what was most interesting to me. The idea of Evan saying, no, this isn't enough. Russ needs to play like this. And you saying the defense is what it is. I think that there's a lot of people that say the defense can't be like this. I don't care how good Russell Wilson's going to play. You will not be a Super Bowl team. You won't get deep into the playoffs. You won't get to a championship if you play like this. The defense cannot just be what it is.
And I think that's the most disappointing thing out of this game. Like, I'm a little bit more, I'm not taking this as hard as it seems like other people on here are. I mean, they're 6-1. I think Russell played like an MVP out of minus 3 throws, and those 3 throws were really bad, and he deserves a criticism for that. But, there was some indication that this defense wasn't as bad as we thought it was going into this game. And like, they threw all any benefit of the doubt that they may have had, they threw it all away, right? Like, the run defense collapsed on that last drive when it was at its most important. They gave up a ton of points. They obviously, blew a big lead. I have very little hope left for this defense now. And I think that going into this game, you could be hopeful that some of the advanced stats and, maybe if they get Jamal Adams back and this, that, and the other, that maybe they could actually be an okay defense. And there was nothing that they showed today that made you think that they could be an okay defense.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not in the same place there. I understand that point of view. I thought there were some things that looked okay tonight on defense, and at some points, and I thought Jordan Brooks had a few plays where it's like, okay, he looks like he's definitely better than Cody Barton. Like, that was nice to see. I even saw Shaquem Griffin had a few nice plays, and then Quentin Dunbar, for the most part, I thought looked okay.
Man, this is a low bar right now. Like,
know,
better than Cody Barton, and Shaquem Griffin had a play where he was okay. And
this is still a relative league. This is still a relative league. And I thought the defense, you put Jamal Adams in there, and I'll say this. You guys will appreciate this more. I think this is a game that could force the Seahawks' hands in terms of making a move for an edge rusher. It was so awful that I can't imagine that they're going to look at that film and be like, yeah, we're good. Jonathan Bullard was enough.
I don't know about that. I mean, this team has a lot of faith in their own guys. There have been millions of times when we've gone into post-game pressers or just press conferences and been like, hey, this guy had a rough game. And Pete Carroll will just be like, yeah, we love him. I mean, it's tough. And so I think they have a lot of faith in their own guys. I mean, I don't think that means faith that like Darrell Taylor can make it back or that Rasheem Green is going to come back and make a huge difference. I just think they're going to look at it and they're going to say, we played an offense that was number 2 in the league in red zone scoring that could very well be undefeated just like we were and is incredibly dynamic at quarterback. And we came down to the final minute of the game. Like, I'm not listening to Pete Carroll's press conference, but I can guarantee you he's finding the silver linings. That said, is there plenty he's probably not telling us? Yeah. Like, I do not believe he's happy with the way the defense is playing. But I don't know that they make a move. I mean, and going off of that, with what? I mean, what do you have?
That's the scary part to me. Like, I don't see how you fix this.
Dan Quinn's out there still. You got a couple 3rd-round picks.
Yeah, but it could be a 5th-round pick. I mean, getting a guy like Carlos Dunlap, I don't know is going to be any expensive draft pick. Nor do I think that solves everything either, for what it's worth. It's just a hunch. I totally hear where you're coming from, Stacy, and odds are that they don't make a move. For sure. Like, it's way easier to not make a move than to make one. Just a gut feeling that if they had won, maybe they don't. But I just have a feeling they're going to look at this and be like, yeah. I mean, I don't know about any of you, but Rasheem Green, does he make any difference in this game?
He
I don't
doesn't make
think
you
so.
believe. You know what I'll say? It's like, okay, here's my question for y'all. Is there anything from this game that made you more excited about the offense moving forward? Is there anything where you thought this offense can absolutely beat any team? Ironically, it will have come in a loss, but Tyler Lockett had 200 yards. DK Metcalf apparently doubles as a defensive back. Like, who knew? Who'd have thought? I mean, Russell Wilson threw a couple dimes in there, minus uncharacteristic mistakes. He hadn't thrown 2 picks since 2018. I don't know the last time he had 3 interceptions. I always really hesitate to be the one on our show to, when we're over on 710, to be like, hey, let's look at the bright side, because I don't always like playing that role. But at the end of the day, I do think there's plenty for Seahawks fans to look at and say, we know your weaknesses. We can talk at length about the weaknesses. We could talk for hours about the weaknesses. What do you have in your arsenal? Is there anything you saw tonight you didn't know you had before?
I thought the offensive line played a hell of a game. I thought they
He
were
did.
excellent. Run blocking and pass blocking. I thought they were fantastic.
Yeah, Dwayne Brown caused a touchdown pretty much on his own.
And, not only did Tyler Lockett have 200 yards, but he did it in a game where they clearly were trying to take away DK, or they had at least put their best player on DK. And so I think something that's kind of cool about this is that if a defense overcompensates one way or the other, we've seen games where, Lockett doesn't do a lot and DK explodes. And now we've seen a game where DK doesn't do a lot and Lockett explodes. So, like, you have 2 top 15, maybe top 10 receivers. And, like, it showed that, if a team really slants one way or the other, you're going to get abused for it. And that was really cool to see.
I got the impression, Stacy, that your answer was no to that question.
Oh, ooh, that's juicy. No, I think Tyler Lockett is even better than I thought he was, even after all these years. And despite being a fellow petite, I regularly underestimate him. I talk about it all the time on our show, my all petite all time draft. Tyler Lockett is my number 1 receiver, and I've only doubled down on that since. I thought too, like, you get a new shiny toy in DK Metcalf and you get excited about what he can do. And I hate that final flag, because that would have been a phenomenal way to end the game. Like, we don't even have to go down there. I don't know if
We have to.
I apologize in advance for bringing it up. Should we just do it now? Let's
No,
just
we
do
have
it now.
to.
Do you think he scores it? David Moore doesn't do anything?
I do. I think he probably scores either way.
Oh, so bad.
I'm usually really, I don't know how you guys are. I'm usually really good at, like, having some feel for whether there's going to be a flag on a play. And so I wait before I celebrate. On that one, I was like, oh, I was totally celebrating. I thought it was a touchdown, and I was looking to wait. And then I saw the flag thing came up, and I just dropped to my knees. That was, brutal.
I had a buddy near the end of the game. I was watching the game with a couple of friends, and near the end of overtime, he turned to me, he looked at me, and he said, "Is every Seahawks game like this?" And I'm like, yes. Yeah. Yes, it is. Every game is emotionally traumatic. Why is this team so predictably stupid? Why are they so predictably traumatic? It's exhausting. I love being a Seahawks fan. I'll never complain about being a Seahawks fan, but did any of you not just have a feeling going into tonight that some wild shit was going to happen?
We all knew that would happen.
We all knew it. It was so predictable.
I'm blaming it on you, by the way, Evan. This is Arizona's fault. I'm not hearing otherwise. This wouldn't have happened if it was here in CenturyLink. I truly believe that. If you guys would follow normal daylight savings time rules, like the rest of us,
okay.
Hey,
the state of Washington is in the midst of changing that, by the way.
Excuse me?
They are. Did you not know that?
No. Why didn't anyone tell me?
Yeah, the state legislature is trying to pass it. They're like, this is a whole different topic, but they have to wait.
I thought this was the last year they're doing it or something, wasn't it?
They have to wait for congressional approval, which is weird, but
I just want to be clear that we're officially blaming this loss on daylight savings time. Is that
is exactly what I'm saying.
That's the analysis people come for.
Look, they pay me for this kind of stuff, man. I mean, this is thinking outside the box. That's what this is.
This game broke so many Seahawks conventions. We're talking about it like it was every other Seahawks game. See how Russell Wilson destroys in Arizona. He has since I've seen almost every game down there in person. I saw his first game that he lost, throwing to Doug Baldwin in the end zone, who had his teeth go through his lips diving to try to catch that ball. That was his only loss before this game, and he blew it up again. And then, how many times did Russell have the ball in his hands with a chance to win? 3 times? 4 times? Like at least 3 times he had the ball in his hands, and Russell does that. Like he wins those situations. Like 1 time, 2 times, 3 times. That's crazy. Like, so this did not feel like the normal, oh my gosh, this is an aggravating Seahawks game. This felt especially brutal. And
Brian, it's brutal because their upcoming stretch is not a joke. And these divisional matchups matter. They really, really matter. It's almost like 2 losses is what it feels like.
They just pissed it away. Like that's why it hurts so much.
Who do they have next week? Is it Niners?
Yep.
Niners. They looked a lot better the last 2 weeks.
I'm just sad. I'm not angry. I'm just sad. I'm disappointed.
I was waiting for that second, the disappointed part.
I mean, this kind of sucks. I mean, this game hurts going to overtime, having the big lead and all that. I think Russ throwing the pick late hurts a little bit just because everybody wants him to finally get that MVP vote. But they went on the road against a good divisional opponent. And, you know, there was a couple weeks there where the division looked a little shaky, but, you know, we were talking about the NFC West being the best division in football. And I think that, you know, last week that didn't look as true. This week it looks more true again. They're 6-1, and like, you know, this is not
5-1. You've been saying 6-1. 5-1.
Well, they will be 6-1. They're currently 5. No,
don't say that, Nathan. Don't say that just yet.
Lock it in. I guarantee a win next week. No, I don't know. No, I mean, like, it's just it sucks, but you know, they weren't going to go undefeated. So here's a loss. They probably should have won, and that sucks, but they are also 14-2 or whatever in their last 16 one-score games. Like, you know, this you opened up with this, Brian. It does catch up to you. You can't win them all. Like, you can't win all games. You can't win, and you especially can't win all one-score games. So, like, it kind of is what it is.
That's
yeah, I get that. This wasn't a one-score game. It was, you know,
This game was a
it
lot.
was 27-14, and then it was, you know, even late in the game, it was 34-24. Like, this was a well in hand game.
But it took a miraculous DK chase down to keep it as close as it was, right? I mean,
That's a great moment.
Yeah,
it was
but
an
he also
amazing
threw
moment.
that.
He deserves like that was not in any way luck. He deserves a ton of credit for being, 1, a freak, and 2, trying his ass off. But like, really though, like, that was, you know, I mean, and then they go for 4th down, they don't get any points out of it. So like, yeah, like, they had a big lead early, but it probably wasn't as close a game, or as the gap wasn't as big as it felt like for most of that game.
I just saw Evan's tweet about we're having therapy with @Stacy Rost, and now I feel like I need to be like, Evan, how did you feel? You know, use some positive language, try to use positive reinforcements, you know, in the 4th quarter. Like, I feel like I need to do some like positive talk therapy here, you guys. No, I do have a real question because my answer to this is actually quite negative. So I want to know if anyone else feels this. What is fixable? What on defense is fixable?
On defense specifically.
Specifically on defense, because there's not much I would fix about the offense other than, like, you know, ideally you don't throw 3 interceptions, but like, I'm not expecting that to happen again for him this year. So,
you know what is fixable? Coaching. Coaching is fixable. And I'm going to pull it up. The Seahawks defense has given up. Okay, so they've given up 25 points, 30 points, 31 points, 23 points, 26 points, and 37 points. Is that good?
Good for the other teams.
It's good for the other teams.
Good for some.
I had to jump off while I was running from my car to my house, but you know what is fixable, Brian? I disagree with you. The pass rush is fixable.
You think so?
Why is it fixable?
Because John Schneider should not be allowed to sleep until he makes a trade for a pass rusher. This was a unit that went completely unaddressed all offseason after being completely abysmal last year. They were abysmal. And for 8 freaking months, we talked about how bad they were. Every single fucking day. The pass rush is bad. It didn't improve. What was the benchmark for success in free agency? Retain Clowney and add 2 additional pieces. You know what? They went the opposite way. They said, fuck it. We're not going to even address the position. And you know what? Here we are entering week 7 of the NFL, and the pass rush is almost as bad as we expected it to be. Sure.
It's worse. It's worse.
There's some advanced
It
metrics.
is objectively worse.
I think it's objective. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'll take it. I'll take the negativity.
Bruce Irvin out and Darryl Taylor out. They have nothing.
But Jeff, there are veteran options out there. Ryan Kerrigan is a name that has been flown around a lot. There are some bad teams out there like the Bengals that have some leftover pieces. They don't have to be a star in their prime. But guess who got Calais Campbell for a 5th-round pick in the offseason? Are you telling me the Seahawks couldn't do some shit like that? John Schneider should not be allowed to sleep until he makes a move for a pass rush.
Why do you think he doesn't?
Yeah, is it arrogance or are they seeing something differently than we are?
I mean, I think they're frugal. I think that's one aspect. I think they're a very frugal organization.
Frugal is a very generous way of saying cheap as fuck, but yes.
Yeah, but then they trade 2 first-rounders and a
They're
third for a safety. So
I'll say what Stacy cannot say on air. I'll speak for her.
I don't know.
Did the Seahawks win this? Sorry, go ahead, Jeff.
I think to answer Stacey's original question, I think tackling is one area they could improve. I think tackling Kyler is so challenging. And there was a play where, I think the first drive where Bobby blitzed them and had him wrapped up, and Jaron had him in the end zone for a safety, against Jimmy Garoppolo for something. Those plays are sacks and tackles. Mm-hmm. So I think that is fixable but someone like Bobby, that first game of the year, we thought he was back. He had a dominant performance, him and Jamal. Since then, he's been pretty quiet. He's not making impact plays. And so, I don't know. I thought Jordan Brooks looked okay, but I think the tackling can improve when Jamal gets back. And, oh, God, pass rush coverage, they suck right now.
Can I just say fuck Bill O'Brien?
Always. I mean, anytime. It's always welcome. Yeah.
What? Why did he do what he did? I mean,
what were the terms of that trade again? Remind me.
It was
David
Hopkins,
Johnson and a 2nd-rounder.
But
it was Hopkins and I thought a 4th for David Johnson and a 2nd or something like that.
I think they also threw in some Fritos or something maybe from the vending machine to kind of sweeten the deal.
One of the dumbest trades I've ever seen. That fucked us.
Oh, Jesus. You want bad news or potentially bad news from Pete Carroll?
Chris Carson?
Is it Chris Carson?
It is about Chris Carson.
Yeah.
He's getting an MRI on his foot. I don't know if that's potentially bad news, but it doesn't sound great.
I don't know.
It's concerning.
That seems logical.
By the way, Carlos Hyde is a significant step back from Chris Carson.
I don't know if I agree with that.
Step back.
Fine.
All his yards today that he got were offensive line yards.
Yeah,
that
and
guy
so all Chris Carson
should have had a first down on the 2nd down run to the side at the end of that game. It was a huge hole.
So Brian, if Chris Carson is healthy in this game and he gets the reps that Carlos Hyde got,
we win.
What?
That's insane.
That's it. That's it.
That is so.
That is
Absolutely.
Oh, that is batshit insane.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you the other thing is this whole post-game show about like, oh, woe is me, the Seahawks are shit, nothing can improve. How are we gonna fix? They should have won. They should be 6-0, everybody. So fuck off. Like,
I
like
don't.
this
No.
won this game.
No, they shouldn't. No.
Absolutely
No.
should
No.
have won this game.
That kinda
No, they
should.
No, they should not have
clearly
won.
the better team.
No,
they were
with that
blowing
game-
They
them
did not
out.
play like the better team tonight.
They did.
Yeah, they did.
No,
Yeah,
they did not.
did.
They made so many.
And tell me they didn't play like the better team. Look at their
Evan,
net
you're wrong.
yardage.
Evan,
Do you know how
you're
many
100%
fucking
wrong.
mistakes they made, Brian? Are you
They
kidding
had
me?
33 first downs.
No, they
You
still
hear what you're
were the better
saying?
team.
Making
If Benson
mistakes
Mayo-
when you're the
It
better
happens.
team is why you lose. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean you're not the better team. Like,
yeah. If
I mean,
Benson Mayo
those-
stands still and freezes, they win the game. So how can you not say they?
I mean, does Carson convert on that down? You know, like Jeff is hinting at, like that could be a conversion, and then you just run out the clock. I mean, you could be done.
I don't think Carson converts on that 3rd and 2nd.
I think you don't want to pay Chris Carson.
That's
And you're
also true.
speaking From
That's
in
also
here
true.
and not from in here.
Potentially.
Well, you can. How many points did they have after Carson left the game versus?
Oh, stop it, Jeff.
No, I like that.
Jeff, you're trolling me. You're
Yeah,
trolling
yeah.
me. Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
good. Okay,
Okay.
good. I don't have to engage with that.
No,
one.
but
Okay.
there is a difference between Carson and Hyde. You can see the way he just like runs over players, but Hyde was not the problem tonight. That was the least of their problems. Like say,
he was not the problem.
I think there was one play like you can argue wouldn't have made a difference in the game. I don't. If you're going to come out with problems, that's so far down the list. Benson Mayo is the problem. If he's just stood and froze for 5 seconds, they win the game.
Question: do you feel less bad about a loss if the loss is mostly on Russell Wilson? That sounds like I'm hating on Russell, and I'm not. But I'm saying if Russ throws
I know what you're
5
saying.
touchdowns and no picks, are you more upset about this loss? I'm trusting that Russell Wilson isn't throwing 3 picks next week. Therefore, I think there are some fans that are like, you know what? If we're talking about what's fixable, maybe nothing on the defense, but I'll tell you, it's probably not going to happen. A loss like that.
I that's kind of where I was thinking as well, Stacy. Like, if you look, if you could hear Evan while he was screeching at pterodactyl levels, saying that they were the worst team. Like, if you think about the mistakes that were made, which team made mistakes that are more likely, that are less likely to happen again?
Mm-hmm.
The Seahawks' mistakes were pretty uncharacteristic on offense, at least.
Sure.
Right? And so, I mean, is anyone really going to argue that if Russell has his normal game where he either doesn't have any interceptions, which is his normal game, or has one, that this is 100% a victory? Like, you really think 2 interceptions
The answer
difference?
is no.
Yeah, it's no.
If it was 2, they would have tied.
Unreal. Come on. I mean, they
No.
barely lost. You don't
Yeah,
think 2 end zone
I think this is an
interceptions difference
easier loss to
would have been the
swallow.
difference?
Yeah, I think
No,
it's an easier
because
loss to swallow when
DK
it's
tackled
on.
the guy, and then they drove 97 yards for a
Yeah,
touchdown.
but they didn't score a touchdown. That was a terrible throw. They were going to score. Like,
No, but they stopped them on 4th down after that terrible pick, and then they drove 97 yards down the field for a touchdown. Like, that one kind of got negated.
What about the
Sort
other
of.
2?
The other 2, no, but I don't know. Like, the last one was just infuriating because the ball was going to no one.
what was that? And he should have had 4 interceptions, by the way. That throw in the flats on like 1st down, or whatever. So I was like, what are you doing? Like, he's covered. Like, that should have been a pick 6. We're very lucky. But
I think this game just sort of evens out from the last game, which they played like shit and should have lost. So
You felt like this is karma.
yeah, like they've been playing with fire for too long, to be honest. Like all those games, New England and Dallas and New England looks like shit. And even Miami to an extent, and Minnesota, who looks like shit. Like they made every game a lot more challenging, and that's probably it.
That I totally agree with. And if that's kind of the point of once it got to be a close game, then yeah, like they've been playing with fire.
No, I agree. I don't agree with Evan's take.
It just shouldn't have been a close game. Is basically my point.
Do we know what happened?
That should have been their easiest win since Atlanta. They just.
Sorry, Stacy, what were you gonna say?
I said, did Evan leave? I don't see Evan. He's
here.
We lose?
He's here.
Okay, just making sure.
He's just being quiet.
Do you
Well,
have the gallery view on, or do you have the speaker view on?
Oh, probably speaker view. You know
Oh,
what?
it's much less exciting.
I know. Yeah, no, I completely agree with you about it. Felt like they had been flirting with a loss for a while and were waiting to be dealt one. I think we were all waiting for the other shoe to drop for the defense. It had been too long. If it gets to the point where, like I noticed over the course of a week of our shows, if I keep feeling like we're coming back to the same conversation over and over, but it's fair, you know what I mean? You're like, man, people are going to get mad that we keep talking about this defense, but also I cannot wrap my mind around an undefeated team that's giving up this many yards. And like, it's not like they were stopping them in the red zone either. I could not figure it out. And it was fair to always bring up. You knew it was going to happen. You knew the defense was going to lose you a game. The question is like, that we still don't necessarily know is, well, will the defense still lose you a game if Russ doesn't throw 3 picks? So if Russ won't lose you a game, then can you always win?
Well, it's so funny, Stacy. I mean, there was a case to be made. You're going to say that the defense won this game with the
I was almost there.
Right, forced fumble that they recovered early.
Yeah.
The interception by Diggs that led to the big touchdown. They held them to what was going to be a 52-yard field goal, and that there was a number of moments where you said, okay, actually the defense rose up, and for this defense, those were like big moments. But when you put it on them at the end of the game, when it's on the defense to win the game, I think you lose that every time this year. I mean, I guess they won against the Patriots. That was they put it on the defense there, but Evan is. I'm
just sad.
I know.
Just sad because it's hard for me. It's hard for me to see them making the changes that are required on defense, because honestly, if you score 34 points in a game, you should win that football game. You really
What
should.
are the changes that are required?
Probably both personnel and coaching. The secondary is nowhere near as good as we had hoped, but Jamal Adams has been missing for several weeks. I think Shaquille Griffin has been largely disappointing this year. So I can't pin it on one thing. I think it's a mix of player execution, not living up to their talent. I think Bobby Wagner has had an inconsistent year. The only defensive player that I can point to and say he's been an absolute stud this year is KJ Wright.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only person. I can't think of another player. Ugo Amadi maybe has played pretty decently this year.
He's kind of fizzled.
Yeah, he has. But
that's a good way to evaluate. Like, how many players are playing above on defense, are playing above expectations right now?
Right. Would you name any player beyond KJ Wright?
Ryan Neal, but that doesn't really count.
Relative to his own.
Yeah, like
Collier has.
Where was he? Did he even play tonight?
Brian Monet,
he played a lot actually. Yeah.
Do the Seahawks win this game? And I apologize if Brian asked this while I was running from the car to here, but do the Seahawks win this game if Jamal Adams is playing? You really think so, Brian?
No, I don't think so.
It was
tackling was awful tonight, and
it was
Jamal Adams is one of the best tacklers in football. I think he's custom made for this particular offense with Kyler Murray running around.
If you don't think that they win this game with Jamal Adams with how close it was, then the Jamal Adams was the trade was a huge mistake.
Wow, that's a great take.
I mean, if that doesn't tip the balance in a game this close, then you should have never given up 2 first-round picks for the dude.
Nathan, I slowly see that take evolving over the weeks. I just want you to know you're slowly getting more aggressive and bold with it. I just want you to know I appreciate that.
No, because I actually think so when we had the pod on Wednesday or whatever, I was saying hey, the defense is kind of okay with Ryan Neal. It's actually maybe even been better with Ryan Neal, and there's caveats to that, but it's true. This game though, I think I'm with Brian on this, that you win it with Jamal Adams, and that's where you see why you made that trade, right? Because I think he probably does, especially if he plays anything like he did in Atlanta against Atlanta. Then I think you clearly win in this game, right?
That was painful.
Right. Guys, I can't take it any longer.
Can we end on a positive note?
I'm
Can we end
What's
on a
the
positive
positive?
note?
Yes.
I don't know. I want to think of something.
Okay.
I want to think. I'm going back to 2015 through 2018, Evan. I'm trying to find it in me.
Tyler.
Tyler Lockett played well, but that's an obvious one. I don't want
Sure.
a Tyler Lockett
Shoddy
take.
called a pretty good game.
Yeah, I think we're being way too hard on Russ on this game. The picks were bad, and especially that last one. I agree with Jeff. I don't know even who he was throwing to. He played amazing for most of this game. He really was MVP level for 95% of this game.
They scored 7 points in the second half.
They scored 27 in the first half.
Okay,
and
that's
they also
great.
Scored against a defense that's been pretty stingy. I mean, this defense has been pretty good.
So let me be clear. They scored 7 points in the final 3 quarters.
Sure, I mean,
they also scored a ton of points in the first.
No,
quarter.
they
I mean,
did. They did.
Yeah, well,
But-
yeah.
But the offense carries this team, and we
Evan
need to have
wants
a
to
full
win the
from
game in
them.
the fourth quarter, is what it is.
Oh, stop! Oh,
That's
Oh,
exactly
Pete
what
Carroll
it
over
is.
here.
okay.
About it.
That
And you
killed
think,
me.
Let's just score early. Let's get out to a lead, and then we'll run it out and relax. And then the minute that they score early, you're like, what? What happened? I thought, what happened to
Stacy,
scoring
thank
an
you,
even number of points
Stacy.
in every quarter?
we need Stacy on here every
Stacy.
week. Oh my god,
Stacy. You know what I want? I want a normal football game from my Seattle Seahawks.
Absolutely not. You wouldn't
That's
love
what I
the
want.
wins if they were normal.
I
Evan.
just want a normal football game for once in my life. And
Evan, normal is not winning by 20 points every week.
Yeah. What is she talking about? Normal's boring.
Evan, you want to end on a positive note?
Yeah, we got to end positive.
Who's the kicker for the Seattle Seahawks?
Oh. Jason Myers.
What is he? 3 for 3?
Okay.
On the
bitch.
season? He's
Okay,
made
bitch.
3 extra
4 for
points or
4.
3
4
4.
for
Oh,
I think he had
oh.
Yeah. Hey, how many mistakes has Jason Myers made this year, Nathan?
0.
Zero.
He's
Right. Correct answer, Stacy.
he's
Nathan.
Jason deserves to be called by his middle name also. That's how good he's been.
What
He needs
is his
to be
middle
named for
name?
Jason Myers. You need to look it up right now. Until he misses a field goal, you will call him by Evan.
It's bad because Wikipedia doesn't even say.
Wow. Wow.
Not
Tweet
great.
him immediately.
Not great. I just want to say he's worth that contract, and he's lived up to the hype. And the nerds are very sad about that. But
I will end this way. So first of
Okay.
all, thanks everybody who's been tuning in. Thank you, Stacy, for joining. And
Thanks for having me.
I'm not going to end on a positive Seahawks note, but I'm going to end on a positive Stacy note. So folks, if you have not followed Stacy on Twitter, it's at Stacy Rost, ROST. And you have to listen to her on 710 ESPN, their show, Tom, Jake, and Stacy, the podcast, live, whichever you choose. For my money, there is nobody that's covering the Seahawks better than Stacy. She asks good questions. She's funny as hell. And she keeps Jake on his toes, which we all need,
accountability.
So she keeps, she's high on the accountability scale. So if for some reason you're in a cave and you don't know Stacy, please make sure you follow her. Your Seahawks life will be improved. And I am hoping that you will use this platform, this amazing post-game show, to take the next step in your career. Hopefully, you're on the cusp of the Seahawks.
Well, let's be clear.
This is the launching pad.
It's more like hopefully she can rebound from her appearance here. Let's be clear about it because it's a negative. It's a negative. Brian, do you not actually have a positive Seahawks take? You got to find something in your soul.
You just screamed at us a minute ago.
Hey,
I did not want to do post-game shows. This is all an Evan thing.
Nathan,
I
can
am
have
too
feelings.
emotional after a post-game. That's why I write a morning after column.
Nathan, I'm allowed to have feelings.
You are, but Brian just chewed our asses for not being positive enough about our 5-1 team, and suddenly he can't come up with a positive.
It's about leading a horse to water. The point is that you guys both pick something positive.
I'll give a positive. I think Damian Lewis has been even better than expectations, and he is a foundational piece to this offensive line. He shores up that interior, and I think we aren't talking about him enough, frankly. I think he's one of the key cogs in both pass protection and run blocking, and I'm so grateful that hopefully he'll be with the Seahawks long term. I think we struggled with the offensive line for way too long, and it's good that the Seahawks finally hit on an offensive line draft pick.
That's a good one. I love that.
Nathan, I want something positive out of you.
I mean, I feel like I've said a few positive things already.
That's way above his quota of like zero.
Yeah. I mean, I got one in. I feel like I'm good. Trying to think of a new one.
I'll
You
go
should come
for it.
up with a
I'll
middle
go
name
for you.
Jason Myers. We should invent one right here on the show.
Now I'm determined.
I will offer this. So it's not about the game tonight, but the positive is this is the last week. Hopefully you will play without Jamal Adams and without Snacks Harrison. And so, we don't know what that's going to mean. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I also thought, like I said earlier, I thought Jordan Brooks certainly looked better than Cody Barton, who has been, I think, atrocious. And so having somebody step in there that looks competent or at least can contribute. I mean, we talk about the difference when Shaquille Griffin goes out, when Trey Flowers enters the game. One player, how much of a difference it makes. You put Jamal Adams in, the best player on that defense, I think there's reason to believe it'll get better. Damon Harrison, don't know what shape he's going to be in. I think he's going to be the best Seahawks defensive lineman. It's not a high bar, but I think that's what he's going to be. So I think he could lift the play of the linebackers behind him as well. So it's not about tonight, but there is hope that there's some guys coming back and getting healthy.
Evan,
I
I found his. I found something about Jason Myers. So he has not one, but two middle names.
You're kidding me, right?
No, this is serious. I found it. Did you not find it?
No,
Nathan for MVP. Okay, what is it?
It's Jason Blair Walsh Myers.
Oh! Actually, you know what I did find out about Jason Myers? He's old as hell. Do you know how old Jason Myers is? He's 29.
Evan.
Quite old for a kicker.
I just want you to know I served that bait up on a silver platter for Stacy
Hey,
and
Evan,
all the old people on this
doing their
podcast.
job on defense? A Seahawks player that was born in the 80s. That's who's getting the job done on defense. So that's all I'll say about that.
29 is old. 29 is old. That is crazy.
Oh my God.
All right.
No, hold up. Jeff didn't give a positive take.
Jeff, go ahead.
I have to. Let me think of one.
I'm giving you 3 seconds.
I got one.
Okay, we started to see signs of life from Will Dissly the last couple of weeks, who has been one of the best stories on the team the last couple of years. And another element that you can add to this offense, Stacy asked earlier, what other things can the offense do? They can incorporate the tight ends better. Greg Olsen almost had a really cool touchdown catch. Dissly did some stuff in the open field. And I think that's a great element to the team that are going to take away DK and going to take away Tyler. They're going to need more out of that group.
Ooh, that's a good one. And on tight end day.
Tight end day.
Jeff, you also had as many sacks as the entire Seahawks defensive line did tonight.
So there's a thing in the football. It's called the Vernon Golson. Remember him? He was a Jets pick a couple of years ago, like a tremendous bust. There's like a running joke. It's like if you get a Golson if you have like 50 rushes and 0 pressures. The Seahawks got the Golson tonight. Everyone's kind of joking about that on Twitter.
They may have 4 of them.
Yeah.
That's pretty hard to go through that.
See, Jeff, you just took it back down at the end. You couldn't help yourself. We were trying.
Well, that game's like the funny thing is, like, if Benson Mayo doesn't take that penalty, the Seahawks probably win the game by 7 points. And we're having such a different conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We're talking about how good Russ is, how good Lockett is.
Russell just said in a post-game interview, very hard on himself. We played a great game outside of those 3 picks that I had. I take full responsibility for them.
So me and Nathan were right.
All right, everybody. Tough night tonight. Seahawks fall to 5-1. Still first place in the NFC West, the best division of football. They got the 49ers coming to town. No fans in the stadium, but 49ers will be coming to town this week. Big matchup as always. Thank you once again to our guest, Stacy Rost. Catch her on 710 ESPN, Tom, Jake, and Stacy show. And if you haven't already, come on, patreon.com/hawkblogger. Tons of folks are signing up, getting into the Slack channel. A lot of good conversation in there, licking our wounds, and looking forward to the next game. So have a good night, everybody. and go Hawks.